Hello everyone. Today I will be talking about my transition from programmer to CEO, and I will tell you about how I had to change my mindset. But before that, something about me. My name is Marek Rosa. I am CEO of two companies that I started. One is Keen Software House, where we are developing games, and the other is GoodAI, where we are developing general AI, or AI that should be recursively self-improving. And I started Keen Software House in 2010. The flagship title that we released in 2013 is Space Engineers. We have sold more than 4 million copies since then, and more than 73 million in revenues. And the game is still active. We are still supporting it, and it's going well. And the other company that I started in 2014 is GoodAI, where, as I said, we are developing general AI, and I invested my own money to this company. Basically, we are doing basic research, so it's not engineering of AI, it's really basic research. And lately, maybe two years ago, we also pivoted, and we also are doing AI in games. So we are developing an experimental game where you have AI agents that can communicate with you. They have their own motivations, they are autonomous, they can create their own stories and so on. So why do I create games? For me, it's the need to create, that I just have passion to create games. This is the main reason for me. And how the strategy for me was always to be looking for some niches, unoccupied niches that other companies are not investing in, they are not interested in it, or it's, let's say, too risky. So basically this is what we do in Keen Software House and GoodAI, is that if there is some problem that nobody's wanting to solve, then we go after it. And who can benefit from my talk? So I think two categories. One is people who want to become CEOs, or who are managers, or who want to become leaders, and currently they are not in a leadership position and they want to learn what they need to do. And second category is people who have their own bosses and who want to understand how the boss thinks and why the bosses sometimes do certain things that maybe seem like, like the boss is an idiot and is incompetent, but actually there is some good reasons why those things happen. And so, at the beginning, I started as a programmer. In 2010, I started developing my own game engine, my game, and I was doing everything myself. And later, I started to hire people, and so I had to transition to the CEO role. And for a long time, it was really hard for me to actually change the mindset. And right now, as I said, I'm CEO of two companies, also a creative director, and I'm managing multiple projects, and I need to understand what we are doing. I need to be coming up with new ideas. And in this presentation, I will be talking about the tricks that I'm using to cope with all this. So before and after. So before, I changed my mindset, how I am going to be a CEO. I was really demanding on people. I was controlling, micromanaging. I wasn't trusting people. I didn't have patience with when somebody wasn't making something on time and so on. And I was very frustrated because as a CEO, you have full responsibility for everything, but you have very little control because everything you want to do, you need to do it through other people. Whereas when I was programmer, I could do just whatever I wanted, and I did it or not. It was just up to me. But if there are other people involved, it's not. You don't have 100% control. And I also was believing that if I pay people, they should be trying to make me happy, basically, like I felt like customer, basically. And so I didn't understand, like, why should I manage them? So this was basically me before. This was my kind of starting point as a programmer. And after that, after I had to really change my mindset, I became a loud boss. And I learned to empower people, develop people, and to actively shape the team culture. And I will talk about few rules and or few, let's say, advices. But there are only few of them. I think there will be like hundreds and hundreds of more that could be useful. So what I learned about leadership is that leadership is about actively building team culture. So this really starts at you as a CEO or as a leader. So you need to be setting up the culture that you want in your team. And it's also useful to be an example that others want to follow. That simplifies the thing. and to be having like long-term investment into people and to communicate the vision of the company or the project very clearly. And by the way, this on the screen is our new office that we have in Prague. And another thing about delegation, that I also had big problem with delegation because many people were giving me advices saying that I should delegate, and I didn't understand that if I delegate something, then I lose control over the thing and I will get different result than I wanted, and like this was constant struggle to me. But after many, many years, I actually understand what does it mean. So when you are delegating, the reason to delegate is that you can do more. You know, that's the main reason, that you don't need to do everything, you can delegate and people will do it for you. But it's very important to make sure that people that are doing the job, they will have required skills to do that job. Like, I cannot delegate something to somebody who is not yet competent to do that job. It's also important to communicate the constraints of the delegation. So for example, if I have some team member and I tell him to make a new model, it doesn't mean that he can make any model, you know, that he can ignore whatever I want. Like, it's very clear to say that I'm delegating this job to you, but these are the boundaries and you need to do it within these boundaries. Because I also have some plan and his output needs to fit properly into my plan. But with delegation, it's also important to understand that if I want to delegate a lot, many of the decisions that people who are autonomous, and I want them to be autonomous because that means that I can do more, they will be making decisions that I may not completely agree or like, but if I'm okay with it, then, you know, that's the way to go. And also with delegation, I think it's good to have some kind of buffer for time loss or financial loss, because when you delegate something to somebody and there is some error in communication, you may get something different than what you wanted or that you need, and you need to do it again and again. So you need to count with this. And I don't delegate things that I have some personal preference for. You know, that for example, if I have a vision for game, I don't want to delegate that vision. I can delegate many other things in the game, but I don't want to delegate the vision. Or for example, I have some idea about the story for the game, and again, I don't want to delegate the whole story to a writer. I want to delegate only some parts of it and keep the ownership of the story for myself. Another important thing is that having trust in people and giving them chance to fail, that's also one of the things that I learned, and I see it also with upcoming leaders in our team who, many of them, they really are also frustrated. They want to control other people to make sure that the other people don't fail. But I think the solution is that if you have a buffer, you need to assume or expect that people who you delegate to, they will fail. You need to be okay with this and give them a chance to fail. And you should also treat people as you think as they should behave, and or as they should be, and not how they currently are. So basically, really believe that they can do it, and in most cases they will do it, or they will change in a positive way. If you will be negative to people, or you will not trust them, then most likely they will actually behave like you don't trust them, and they will not perform well. And another very, very important investment is in developing relationships with your team. So basically, make sure that your team doesn't hate you. You know, that's quite important. And with this, you can look on it from a perspective that when you are building, when you are having a relationship with somebody in your team, to ask a question like, am I actually developing this relationship, or am I hurting or damaging this relationship? Right? I think that's a very good question that you can ask after every conversation with somebody. And so how to work with many people who have different skills, different strengths, different weaknesses. So my solution is that I try to understand everybody's strengths and weaknesses and build on their strengths and compensate for their weaknesses. So basically find somebody else who can do, you know, that part, who can do it better, or maybe organize the team in a way that those weaknesses of those people don't come up. And what to avoid? So one thing I think that is really important to avoid is a culture where people are complaining. So instead of this, in our team, we have a culture where everybody is responsible for everything. And this doesn't mean that, for example, I want an artist to be fixing code or something like that. But it really means that if an artist doesn't like something, he comes and says, doesn't keep it for himself. And with this is also important to understand that not every idea can be delivered, or we cannot really focus on every idea that, or every suggestion that anyone in the team has. Sometimes, of course, we need to prioritize, and sometimes not all the ideas will fit with the vision of the game. So for people, it's really important to understand that if their suggestion doesn't get noticed by the management, or we just don't do it, it doesn't mean that we don't agree, but there are some reasons, and in that case, the person should just let it go. Another thing that can kill the team spirit or team unity is a blaming culture. So I think this is something that is also very important to avoid, and to enable people to make mistakes and not blame everybody for every little detail or every little mistake. And it's okay if people fail sometimes. But of course, I think it's still important to look on the overall accountability and performance of your team, and make sure that if there is somebody who doesn't fit and who is constantly making wrong results or not delivering, is underperforming, that person needs to leave. And also, what to avoid is people who are not productive. So in our team, what we do is that in first 3 months, and usually we try to do it in first month, we try to test whether the person is productive or not, and make the decision whether the person continues or not within the first 3 months. Like, this is what I learned, is that, for example, we had somebody who didn't perform well in first 3 months, so we gave that person another 3 months, another 3 months, and it never changed. So it's like, you either see that it works in the first 3 months or it doesn't work. And another thing that I also learned is that during my process, I was asking for advices, how to be a leader, how to be CEO, many people, and many of these advices were not good for me, or not right fit for me. So I think taking advices from other people and just using them automatically is also a bad advice. So that's something I would not do. And finally, what I learned is that culture in your team is what you tolerate. So if you are, for example, unhappy about some particular trait in your team, for example, people are not delivering on time, but you are tolerating it, which means that you are still okay with this and not doing anything against this, and basically that's the culture that you will have, a culture of people who don't deliver and they are okay with this. So culture is really defined by what you tolerate. And some people also ask me, like, what kind of mental hygiene or what kind of life hacks I'm using to stay mentally fit and to be ready to be productive. So I every day think about, or almost every day I think about, like, what I did good, what I did well, what I did not well, and try to optimize and basically get better at it. And then every morning I have what I call morning routine, so I read through these things just to remind myself. And this list actually goes long and long, so I don't read it all because it's just 50 pages or something like that. So I always focus on few main things that I want to improve in my life, and I keep them on top of this morning routine, and I remind it for myself until I improving that thing, and then I find something else, and then I go on. And so here are a few advices, like something specific that I wanted to give you is that don't be too busy. That's one of the things that, of course, probably many people who know me, that they will probably say that I'm very busy, but this is about the mental state, that I don't feel busy. Like, I may seem busy or I am doing many things, but I don't feel busy. And this means that you always have some time where you can just sit and think and, let your thoughts go. You cannot be just solving tasks, answering to emails 24/7. Also, sleeping well is very important and will help you well. This is the advice that everybody is telling us. And managing your resting time and your work-life balance So in my case, this doesn't mean that I work only 8 hours and then, like I have free time. I personally work basically like from like every hour in my day, but then there are days or hours where I do something else, like there is a party, or we go for a dinner, or I'm traveling, or doing all this kind of things. So I don't feel like I'm always working. It's just like I have days where I'm working from morning till night, but then I have days where I'm just traveling or doing some other things. And I think everybody needs to understand how to manage his own work-life balance. For somebody, it can be really working only 8 hours per day. For some people, it can be working only 6 hours per day. For some people like me, it means that I can be working for weeks constantly, and then I go for some travel or something. So I think it's really understand where is your threshold, and manage it yourself. Physical activity, like doing sport. In my case, I'm running, or like doing some other sports. That's something that just makes me happy. And basically, when there is a few days when I'm not doing some physical activity, I just feel like I'm missing it. So this is something very, very useful for me. And then I try to split my work or schedule my work so that I can do work in sprints or in some kind of like bursts, so that I'm not distracted by things every few seconds. And this is of course very hard, especially in these days where you have your phone notifications, you have your inbox and constantly coming emails, and then people are messaging you and all these things. So we all, it's easy to say but hard to do, but we all need to learn how to turn off all these distractions and focus on sprints. And this is, for example, for me, it's very useful to come up with new ideas during brainstormings with the team, because when you are doing the brainstorming, you are focusing on the people in the group, and you cannot focus on emails or messages or some other things. So you are really you are in the zone, and then you can come up with interesting ideas. Then resetting your environment, or basically going to a different place, it's something that I also learned is very, very useful, because when you are constantly only in the office and then at your flat, it's kind of boring, and you get in some kind of stereotypical mindset. But what I learned is that when you are traveling, seeing different cities, seeing different countries, different nature, it somehow triggers different, context or whatever in your brain, and you can see things from the same things, but from completely different angle. So that is very, very useful. And as I said in the beginning, that I try to constantly keep improving myself, and asking, my advice to you would be that ask yourself what kind of person you want to become, and then actively shape yourself to become that person. That's, I think, the best advice. So, for example, if you feel that you are too lazy and you don't want to be too lazy, or let's say you are not disciplined, that there are many things that you should be doing but you are not doing, start at least thinking about what kind of person you want to be. And if you don't want to be the lazy person, the undisciplined person, then start doing some active steps to not being that person. And look on what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses. And your strengths, I think you should build your future on your strengths, not on your weaknesses, but on your strengths. So if you are good at, let's say, art, I think you should invest your time in becoming better and better artist. You should not worry about that you are not good at, let's say, sound design. And regarding weaknesses, so these are things that you can ignore, like that's one way how to look on it, but in my understanding, weakness is something that is actually setting me back or setting me down, so something that is hurting my strength. And that's why I try to analyze all my weaknesses. I call them like Achilles heels, because it's something that can actually kill me, like one little thing that if I ignore it, it will hurt me very big in the future. And I actively work on fixing them. Those are the things that I put in my morning routine, so things that I need to be reminding myself that I want to get rid of these bad habits. And here are some few examples, and this is really just some examples, and I also didn't want to go too personal in some of them. So for example, at some point, I realized that I'm spending too much time on email. And this doesn't mean that I'm just browsing through email, but there are too many emails coming to my inbox, and I'm just answering, and I spend the whole day answering emails, and then I feel like, and actually I didn't do anything that I wanted to do. I just answered many emails, and that's it. So what I did was that I set some kind of time budget for how much time I can spend on emails and how much time I must spend on other things that I planned, things that I actually need to deliver. So I cannot be only in the reactive mode, reactively replying to emails. I want to be in the active mode where I prioritize what I want to do, and then I go one thing after another. Another thing that was useful for me was that after working on all these projects, because I'm working on space engineers, then AI in-game, and general AI, and many other things, if you constantly need to be switching context, so you go from meeting that is about space engineers, and then you go to meeting that is about AI, and then you go meeting about some HR stuff, and then you go meeting about some marketing stuff, constantly switching context in your brain is it's just tiring. It's not funny, and I didn't like it. So after some time, I came with this strategy that Mondays and Tuesday I focus only on space engineers. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday I focus on AI game or AI in games, and Thursday, Friday I focus on general AI research, and then Saturday and Sunday, if I'm not doing some kind of fun activity, I focus on any of those things which I think is the most urgent or most important in that week. Another thing that I realized when I was struggling with how to change my mindset from programmer to CEO was that I wanted people in my team to start behaving in a certain way, and then I was thinking like, but why they are not doing it? And then I realized that actually I'm not leading them by example, so even I'm not behaving, or maybe they think I'm not behaving in that way. So in some situations I started to behave in a way that I wanted to also receive from people in the team. Another thing that I realized, it's quite funny, that I realized some time ago, that with the success of space engineers and other things, I was in a situation where I thought that I don't want to risk too much because I don't want to lose it all. So for example, like we have team, we are growing, we had our own office and everything, and then you start thinking that if I make this step, I can lose it all, and basically I don't be bankrupt or have nothing again like before, and so on. So that's something that I realized, and I knew that this is something that, some kind of mental model that can set me down, because if I will be only playing it safely and not risking, I cannot actually achieve the things that I want to achieve, like the general AI. So I started to actually think about, reminding myself that even for me, it will be okay if I lose it all. Like, let's say, if trying these new ideas means that I will lose my company, that's it, that's okay. Like, I'm totally okay with this. So this is just some example. Another thing that, some kind of Achilles heel that I discovered about myself was that at some time, when I was trying to delegate a lot of things to other people, I didn't have time to go over the details in their proposals, and I was just approving. And after some time, I realized that I'm getting things that I don't want, that I don't like, and I was also responsible for those things. So after some time, I realized that if I'm approving something, I either am approving it because I believe that the person can make the decision, but I really need to believe it, and I need to have some proofs and some evidence, or I am approving it if I understand the details of the project. And if not, then I'm just not approving it. And the last here is also at some point I realized that many times in our team, as we are getting bigger and also people were different, somebody, or for example, I had some idea about some new feature, and there was always somebody who is against that idea. And at some point, I realized that I am abandoning my new ideas only because some people will say that, no, that's not a good idea, and I was not sure, like, am I right? Like, I like this idea, this other person is saying that it's a stupid idea, so I didn't know, like, am I right or not? And there was time when I realized that I'm abandoning many of these ideas only because somebody said that it's not a good idea. And after some time I realized this, and then I started to remind myself that no, if I believe in some idea, somebody doesn't, then we can discuss, maybe the person is right, or if the person still believes, then I still want to try my idea, and either it works or not, but I don't want to abandon the idea only because somebody says that doesn't believe in it. And so something about time management. So I always have less time than I need and more projects than I can handle. And I cannot solve this, and I think nobody here feels that we have enough time to achieve everything that we want to do. So we cannot solve this, but we can prioritize. And what I'm doing is one of the things that I already mentioned is the reduce the context switching. So that's one very useful trick. And another thing that I like is that I put my tasks in either in tasks, which is like a list of tasks that I can prioritize and put the most important or the most urgent things on the top, and then basically go the things that I want to lose the least, solve them first, and only when they are solved I can move on the things that I can afford to lose. And having all these tasks only in one list is useful, because if I have like distributed them in multiple lists, like something is in emails, something would be in the calendar, something would be in some other files, then it's messy and I cannot really prioritize properly because I don't see all these things. But if I'm putting them into one list and ordering so that the most important thing is first and then I solve it, and when I solve it I go to the next one, this actually reduces the mental burden that you will have otherwise, and also it reduces the stress that is there, which, like, when you finish a task and you are in a situation when you need to decide what is next, then you are many times tempted to just do some random thing or do something that is easy to do, some kind of quick win, or some people just start browsing, like Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, because they don't want to do the next task. So in order to avoid all these things, I'm using tasks and prioritization. And for tasks where there is some deadline, like either for myself or for somebody else, like something that there is some time and I don't want to miss it, I put it in calendar. And I make sure that those things that I have in the calendar, I really look on them. Maybe I move them in time or something, but for example, if there is a deadline for release and I need to have something finished for the release, I put it in the calendar, I put there some reminders, so I make sure that I will not forget the thing. And last thing here is start making notes on specific projects or topics or even people. So for example, if I have somebody who is not in our company, but I'm communicating with them frequently, let's say some lawyer company, I'm putting my own meeting notes to a document with dates and some kind of like next steps. So next time when I'm speaking with them, I can very quickly remember what was the last thing that we discussed, what are the next steps, and understand. This really helped for me to have one place where I can find information, and it helped me to actually manage all these projects at the same time and not be lost in so many details and so much information. And this is the end, so thank you very much, and thanks to my teammates who survived with me through this process, because it wasn't pleasant all the time. And also thanks to Lucia Šickova and Šimon Šickov from Pixel Federation, who actually helped me quite a lot when I was discussing with them many of these leadership questions. So thank you, and now we have 2 minutes for questions.
Thank you for the talk. How did you approach learning what the other disciplines are doing? Because you started as a programmer, so I expect that you need to get to know what artists are doing and what is their process and what other disciplines like designers are doing.
Yeah. So actually in 2010 and before and after, when I was starting the company, I was programming and also doing art. Of course it was basic art. I was doing also PR, sound design, I don't know, like all these things. I think the only thing I didn't do was music. So that's how I like got to know those things. But of course, like doing some simple art, like either 2D or 3D, is not the same thing as being experienced artist. So that's why I talked with artists in my company and tried to learn from them. Also learn from, let's say, presentations or some talks or books and so on. So I think that if I want to be a creative director, I need to understand everything in what we are doing and has some idea. So, yeah.
Hello, thank you. My question is how you deal with fear of losing your tech skills, especially when you take some lead roles.
I'm sorry, losing what?
Tech skills, hard skills, when you was a programmer and then you take more in management stuff and something like this.
So you mean that how I cope with losing my programming skills after I become CEO? That's actually good angle. I didn't think about it this way, and one way how to look on this is that by stopping being programmer, what I lost is the ability to do more programming, obviously, and have more control over the code. But what I gained is that now I can actually work with many more people, and we have currently in our teams 100 people, so my output is much higher. So I lost something, but I gained something else. And now I try to, for example, programming, when we are designing the new engine for our game, I cannot understand every little detail, but I try to understand the most important things that I need to understand, and on those things I make sure that I'm aligned with the, let's say, engine lead or some other programmers.
Thank you. And another question, how you measure your output as a leader, as a manager, because, as a programmer, you just finish your task and yeah, I finished that, this is my output. And as a manager, I do something, but I don't know, is it a good way for a company, for a project, or, yeah.
Yeah, so with programmer, I think the benefit is that the feedback loops are much shorter. So you do something, you see it works or doesn't work, and that's actually very pleasant. And this is something that I miss. And I was programming something for myself maybe 1 or 2 years ago, and I spent a few weeks, I took some kind of sabbatical, and it really felt good to just program something and see the result. I didn't have to come to people, explain to them, try to convince them, and then come back in a week to see the result and all these things. But as a leader, that's exactly what you do. That the feedback loops are much longer, so you don't see the result now. You can see it, let's say, in a few weeks or a few months or even in a few years. And some of the things, for example, like the cultural changes, are even more slower and even much harder to see. So for example, if you are shaping the culture in your team, it's not something that you can see and test. It's something that you really can just kind of feel. You can maybe ask people what they think about this situation, or let's say if they are happy or not, but it's very hard. You cannot measure it. It's not like a speed of your car or something. It's much harder. So as a leader, I don't have specific answer to you, but I'm just saying that this is the kind of struggle that is there, and what helped me with switching or changing my mindset was that I learned to become okay with this. Basically, for a long time, I was kind of sitting on 2 chairs because I was thinking that, so should I be programmer and having people in the team but still programming myself and having 100% control? Or should I be a leader and not doing this kind of micro stuff and trying to lead things from the high-level perspective? And what helped me was that when I realized that I need to switch and really sit only on 1 chair, not on I'm doing it myself every little detail, but that I should be on this high level, forming things in much longer feedback loops and having less control, but still having more people available to me. So this helped me that when I realized that I'm not going the solo programmer way and I'm going the leader or CEO way.
Thank you.
Okay, so time is up. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.